Well, welcome viewers, Dr. J.W. Ayub, theologist since 1994, bringing the life of Muhammad and the verified revelation of the people of the book, episode 32, the silence of self-protection inside Islamic ideology. The mouth no longer argues openly. It closes. Not because the question disappeared, but because the cost became familiar, predictable. Viewers, in the previous episode, exhaustion inside Muhammad's Islamic ideology, authority structure upon the Muslims deepened beneath outward performance. And in this episode, the pressure evolves again. The silence of self-protection. And at first, the silence feels responsible, measured, wise. The Muslim listener stops raising certain tensions publicly, not because they were resolved, because the atmosphere already taught the consequence of exposing them openly. A family meal continues. A prayer continues. A conversation redirects itself carefully. But underneath the routine, unresolved contradiction remains untouched. The mechanism becomes extraordinarily powerful because silence cannot imitate peace while quietly protecting fear. The Muslim inside the Islamic authority structure begins learning which thoughts must remain internal, which questions threaten their belonging, and which concerns stabilize the room itself. And eventually the deeper realization quietly surfaces. Inside emotionally regulated obedience systems, silence often survives where honesty becomes too costly. And the pressure no longer needs visible confirmation because the environment already understands. For the Muslim, speak less, risk less, lose less. And that pattern appears repeatedly throughout Islamic history, especially once conformity regulates belonging, performance regulates safety, certainty regulates trust, and silence regulates survival. Because once preservation becomes psychologically fused to righteousness itself, unresolved examination increasingly becomes something hidden rather than confronted openly. The people of the book warn that performance-based religion eventually goes wrong and ends badly. But Muhammad never took this sacred ancient advice with him. Because where righteousness becomes performance, sin is not conquered, viewers. It is aroused, strengthened, concealed, and eventually defended beneath religious identity itself. That's where sin hides. And sin, and religious people know what sin is, then seizes opportunity through the things that we think we need to do or not do to make Allah happy or stop him from being sad, in the case of the Muslim. Sexual immorality, desire managed beneath outward obedience while the structure still claims moral authority. Hatred, hostility increasingly directed toward perceived threat against the Islamic ideological structure. Discord, relational fracture within the community, hidden beneath outward unity. And that is the warning carried among the people of the book. Muhammad left this completely out. Islamic ideology does not know this principle. They didn't take this principle with them. This is a sacred saving grace that the people of the book knew by experience. Works-based religion may regulate behavior publicly. The works-based ideology of Islamic theology may regulate behavior publicly, but privately sin seizes opportunity wherever temptation remains unresolved. Cravings remain active. Appetite remains unrestrained. Fear governs behavior. Performance replaces transformation, and inward corruption survives beneath religious identity. The people of the book expose the danger directly. Romans 7 verse 8 reads, "Sin, seizing opportunity through the commandment, the things we think we need to do or not do, to make Allah happy or stop him from being sad, gives sin the opportunity to seize us into what it wants. Because externally managed righteousness cannot cleanse inward corruption. And Muhammad has completely left this out of Islamic ideology in his pursuit to be a prophet. And it often restrains behavior outwardly, our ideology, religious ideologies, while intensifying hidden contradiction inwardly. The Quran 5:101 reads, "The Quranic submission structure repeatedly reinforces restraint surrounding difficulty questions." And Quran 5:101 reads, "O you who have believed, do not ask about things which, if they are shown to you, will distress you." Well, Muslim listener, right now you need to be distressed, because Islamic ideology and the directions that it gives to the Muslims to make Allah and Muhammad happy and stop them from being sad actually is causing sin to rule behind closed doors. And that reinforcement matters enormously, because once questioning itself becomes emotionally associated with religious destabilization, silence can begin feeling spiritually safer than unresolved religious examination. The room grows efficient. No exposure, no disruption, only quiet internal retreat. And eventually the one tied to the Islamic allegiance structure begins carrying a burden the collective rarely notices honestly. The loneliness of questions no longer spoken aloud. But somewhere underneath the silence, another thought begins appearing quietly inside the Muslim listener. If fear must continually protect the Islamic structure, what happens if the structure itself is the thing trapping my soul? The table remains calm. The face remains composed. The tension remains underneath. And for the first time, silence no longer feels entirely safe. I'm Dr. JWA. Like, subscribe, press the bell if you like the content. Comment to educate me, and share the video to help somebody else. Bye for now.